The Sonic Movie Show is a weekly podcast that you can find on Apple Podcasts, Google Play Music, and YouTube. Just search for The Sonic Movie Show and give us a like wherever you listen. What's up, guys? Welcome to the Sonic Movie Show, the only show that's about Sonic news, and the occasional Sonic movie news, although none really as of late. My name is Ethan. With me here is Devin.
Where we're going, we don't need pants.
And what's that from again?
It's from Avatar, The Last Airbender, what we're going to be talking about today.
Season 1, right?
Season 1.
Yeah, so like every now and then on the Sonic Movie Show, we want to like talk about some TV stuff. So every now and then we're going to be talking about a TV show season that we watched together but separate, etc. And we're kind of discussing it, reviewing it, and whatnot. And so our first season that we wanted to do for a show is for Avatar: The Last Airbender, a show that only has 3 seasons, and we're doing the first one today. How do we want to do this?
Well, first we should say that you've seen it, and I haven't.
Yes.
I think that's important.
Yeah, we mentioned this, I guess, off and on the past few episodes, saying, hey, we're watching this for this or whatever. I forgot what episode we actually announced that we're going to be starting it, in case people wanted to be caught up for whenever we finally do it. But yeah, this was a show I watched way back when on Nickelodeon on TV years ago. Over 10 years.
I was going to say the first episode came out February 21st, 2005. So we were 10 when it first aired.
Wow, so 2005 to 2008.
And now we're 25.
now we're 10. Now we're 25. Yeah, yeah. This was a show I remember watching way back in the day. First as a joke, because this was the era where SpongeBob was king and Fairly Odd Parents, and then on Cartoon Network there were also similar serialized shows or non-serialized shows. I forget which one is in order and which one isn't. Is it serialized?
Serial, I think, would be in order.
Okay, so the non-serialized stuff, your Law and Orders, etc. And Nickelodeon experimented with their first serialized cartoon, and I remember finding it a bit of a joke until I caught one episode on TV that's from this season, and it hooked me. And then I watched the entire thing. I've seen this show probably 3 times all the way through. So this would be my 4th time. Good amount of years in between. So it's not like it's, all right, I'm done, let's start over. So this is a show I really love, and that's why I pitched it to Devin for our first TV show experience. Devin, experience with this show is different, right?
Yeah, I've seen prior to this maybe like a couple episodes, like in the background when I was doing homework, when I was probably like 14 or 15. I think because it might have been on when I came home from school, and like maybe
like
it was
reruns.
Yeah, it might have been a rerun, or it would have been right before maybe another show I was watching on Nickelodeon. Because my brother would also watch cartoons, so we kind of just agreed, okay, Nickelodeon's on, or turn on Cartoon Network, you know. But
right.
We liked kind of the same stuff, like you said, Fairly Odd Parents, SpongeBob, Jimmy Neutron, Danny Phantom. Shout out to Danny Phantom.
I remember that.
Those kind of shows. So, yeah, but I mean, it was always kind of a joke in our little friend group we had back in the day, but mostly because no one actually, I don't think anyone actually watched it in the group, or it was just, we were in that phase where we just like, if anyone said they liked something, you just crapped on it.
Right.
Exactly. So,
exactly.
But I feel like the episodes I saw weren't in the first season, though, because nothing, like, I didn't have any brain blasts when watching this. Like, there's no moment where I was like, whoa, I've seen this, except for maybe the first episode. I might have seen it. This looks familiar.
I feel like that first episode has scenes in it that were played like on repeat as commercials on Nickelodeon.
So maybe that's where it's coming in.
Because I remember do you want to go penguin sledding with me? Was like
oh
and
my
next
gosh,
is Avatar.
Yes. I think because we watched that episode together, and I remember like being like, oh my gosh, it came back to me, but I didn't remember where it was from. But now, okay,
yeah, and that's where like it, because the show is not. The creators of the show, and I should have their names up, but I don't. They never wanted the show to be like
Michael, Dante,
comedy,
DiMartino, and Brian.
Yeah, DiMartino.
Brian Konietzko. I'm so sorry. I'm so bad with like any name that doesn't look super American. Brian Konietzko. They
didn't want to do like a a super funny show, but Nickelodeon, their whole repertoire is comedies for children in cartoon form, right? So they kind of try to force some of that stuff in. And as you can see in this season, it starts to wean off pretty quickly. It's still always throughout the entire show. This is a show for kids.
Yeah, I have notes about
2
like
and 3.
comedy and stuff in this, and whether or not I like it.
They kind of simmer it down a bit, and I think especially towards the end of the season, and as we'll see in the next season, it's at a good enough level where it's like, all right, even if it's a little bit corny, I'm already invested with these characters, so it's fine. So
yeah. I did see the movie, the M. Night Shyamalan flick,
and that's funny because I never did.
And I think we should watch that after this is all done. I think we should just watch that because it's been so long, and when I saw it, I don't even know when that movie came out. I think I saw it on like Redbox or early Netflix or something like that. So I remember watching it. I'm like, okay, I don't know what's happening, but I don't know if this is cool or not.
Also, what we should watch after we watch that real life version is the remake of it on Netflix. The same 2 creators that you just said, Michael Dante DiMartino and Brian Konietzko, are making a live action version of it for Netflix. And that's apparently supposed to start the production's this year. It's maybe end of this year or beginning of next year.
I would just assume
COVID-19,
everything is pushed back right now. So
yeah. So by the time we finish this, who knows? Maybe it'll be close enough to at least.
And then we get the Avatar James Cameron films, which aren't related.
Yeah, no.
So if you click this and you're very confused, you're like, I thought they were going to talk about the Na'vi. Nah, dog.
No, the only Na'vi I care about is Link's Fairy from Ocarina of Time. Yeah, and there's also, if people have never seen this show, like people that maybe thought we're talking about James Cameron's 2009 Moneysucker, there's also a sequel series to this show called Legend of Korra that couldn't have Avatar in the title because of James Cameron, even though the term Avatar is being used in 2 different contexts. The Avatar in the 2009 movie is a version of you in another place.
Is Na'vi, dude.
And Last Airbender is version. The idea of the Avatar, which is, and I forget which culture it is, but basically the peace bringer for the world. Like, that is a part of, I mean, in certain religions, you look at, like, Jesus as, like, the Avatar or something like that.
The Avatar Peace Prize.
They're 2 different meanings.
Obama won the Avatar Peace Prize.
Yeah, exactly.
2009.
Exactly.
That's a dumb joke.
But yeah, I forgot where I was going with that. But anyway, there's a bunch of other media related to this that has nothing to do with James Cameron. So if this becomes a big hit with us, maybe one day in the future we'll revisit other aspects of it. Because also after these 3 seasons end, there's like 6, and I think they're still going, comic book lines that follow the story. Like, here's an arc, now here's the next arc, and they're all like collected into books. I have the first one in a giant hardback, and it literally picks up right after the show ends.
Got it.
So there's all this ancillary media. This was a humongous like success in terms of like impact on fans and stuff. Like, this is a memorable show. I believe that this is one of the best cartoons ever, for sure.
It has 100% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, that means 100% of the people recommend you watch it, unless you're looking at the M. Night Shyamalan thing and only one reviewer said watch it. So
who knows?
Yeah. So how do we want to go about this? Because we went back and forth between, do we want to go episode by episode or like just talk about our thoughts?
I think it's best to just do episode by episode. We'll do a brief like overview of like what happened in that episode, and then whether or not we liked it, or is there anything worth talking about. If it's a filler bottle episode, then we can just kind of say it is and move on.
I guess, do we want to establish what this world is? I'm assuming everyone that's listening to this has seen it or knows about it.
Yeah.
But I guess to do extremely brief, this is a fantasy world of non-modern technology. There's 4 different nations, earth, wind, fire, water. Each of the 4 are based off of different oriental cultures. The Fire Nation is Japanese-based. The Earth Kingdom is Chinese-based. The Air Nomads are Indian Buddhist inspired. And the water tribes of the North and South Pole are based on the Inuit, which were Eskimos, to put it bluntly, I guess, that are more in the Americas.
I hear Eskimos is bad now.
Is it?
To say?
Well, when did the term come from?
I don't
if it's
know.
something that we gave the people as white people, that's a name that we called them, then I can see for sure.
You can even say Oriental. I think that it's also iffy too.
Really?
Yeah. I would say
okay,
Asian.
so Eastern. We'll use the term Eastern.
We're sorry in advance if we're not. That's not our intent to offend anybody. I don't know.
I guess you're right, because if someone is like, oh, that's one of those Oriental. Well, if you always say one of those people, then it always is kind of, I guess, racist. But if someone's like an Oriental,
I have no
person
idea.
over
I'm just.
there,
I want
it
to
is
make
weird.
sure we clear it right now.
Yeah, you might be right.
I'm not
let's cover
sure.
our bases, but we'll just say Eastern. So there are these 4 tribes. And like I said, they're each based off like one of the classical elements of nature, as people refer to them. And some of the people in each of these nations can manipulate that element in the world with their mind, but also
Bending,
like through their body. They call it bending, right? You actually have to do a physical motion. It's not telekinesis with the stuff. It requires your chi, essentially, which is a very Eastern idea. And one person in particular, at any point in the world, any point in time, rather, can do all 4. They're supposed to be like a peace bringer, and they're called the Avatar. And the show is saying that 100 years ago, the Fire Nation said, screw this, we're going to become Nazi Germany and take over the whole world.
That's what they said, quote.
End quote. Oh, there's going to be, I'm sure you can literally Google Avatar Aang fights Hitler in Google and find hundreds of fan fictions. What would he do if he saw Hitler in his brain tube? Yeah, so the Fire Nation says we're going to take over the world, and the Avatar seems to have disappeared. That's 100 years ago. It's today. And so that's when the show kind of kicks off. So
The Avatar basically, they reincarnate. So I was kind of confused by this throughout the show, where like, when does that gap? Is it when they die?
There is no gap.
So there can always be
someone will be born at the moment one of them dies. So when
I'm just asking, can there be 2 avatars at the same time? No. Okay.
Nope. Yeah, as soon as an avatar dies, coincidentally, someone that was born at that moment is the avatar.
So I have a chance to it too. Of being the avatar is what you're saying.
You have a chance. Yep. If you know the avatar is very sick, have a kid right now. Better start now. You got time, a 9-month window. Maybe you'll be good. Man, he's looking really old. We predict. We sentence him to execution in 9 months. So get ready. You have a chance.
God. That's in the future. That's in the if Avatar takes place in our time. They're just rigged, so they know they're like, oh, we found him already. Everyone's having a kid at the same time. Better push that baby out.
I don't want to talk too much about stuff you haven't seen, but like the sequel series is about the next Avatar after Aang, and it is after some time, and so they could always do a thing where like, we'll bring the show back or a sequel series, and it's the one afterwards, and it's the one after that, or they could always do something like that, but I'm pretty sure they would run out of ideas on how to make it seem fresh each time. So let's, I guess, talk about each of these 20 episodes briefly. We'll stop and obviously talk about the things that we really like about it. As we go.
Before we go in, I want to say that when watching this, so I had it on Blu-ray, which is what you gave me to borrow. And what's weird is I thought I was at 10 done. I was at 8 because I for some reason I thought it was 10 per disc. It was 8 per disc, except for I had disc 3 of Book of Water 3 or whatever it was, and I'm like, it only had 4 episodes on it. I was very confused.
And it's weird because
like,
this
why
is
don't
a
you just
Blu-ray
put that
disc, but they're not standard definition because this is like a somewhat of an HD conversion, but these are not like HD episodes. They're
Like
4x3,
you definitely could have put one
meant for
season
TV.
on one disc, or
It
at
is
least
weird.
two.
And I'm 90% sure that the Steelbook set has each season on one disc. But it is cheaper to make, because there are different types of Blu-rays. Obviously, we have 4K Blu-rays now that can't work in older Blu-ray players. So there's layering. Like a Blu-ray disc can hold, I believe, up to 200 gigabytes of data if you manufacture them that way. But most of the time, nowadays, they're, I believe, at 50, but it's a lot cheaper to make a 25 gigabyte Blu-ray. I think that's as low as it can go. I'm not sure. I think it's in multiples of 25. So who knows? They could have just, well, this is a TV series, so people are used to having large Simpsons TV series box sets. I remember I have Batman Beyond, the complete series, on DVD box set, and there's like, I swear, 25 discs for this.
Jesus.
It's insane.
But yeah, I ran into that and I was like, wait, what the hell? I thought I only had 10 more to watch, and it turned into 12.
No, that's not too bad. They're only like, what, 24 minutes long?
Yeah, I did 5
Something
last
like that.
night, and I did the other 7 today. So
Nice.
or-
So you're way more fresh on it than I am. So
yeah.
Well, I guess before we actually start talking about it, tell me your overall thoughts on the show. Like, do you like this?
At first, I wasn't feeling it. I wasn't vibing, to be honest. I was like, I don't watch many cartoons to begin with, and like in general. Like, as soon as I got to like 17 or 18, I stopped like not even like South Park, not even Family, like any like adult cartoons. Like, I just didn't have no interest, generally. But so at first when it was like going, I was just like, okay, and then like the plot
Doing this for Ethan's sake.
yeah, but I was trying to find things I did like in it. So I'm like the design of like some of the characters. There's a lot of monsters in this. That's my thing. So monsters are cool. The creatures. But early on, I feel like there's a point in which the show becomes either more serious or maybe they just write better. I feel like there's some early episodes where I'm like,
I would love to know how these kinds of shows are made.
Like, how far did they go? I don't know.
You would write a story linearly, at least in terms
Like,
of
I can
the
tell you
actual
which episodes I
details.
didn't like or ones I preferred more, or I just felt like this episode they could have just...
There's definitely a
didn't-
turning point in this season where it's like, okay, now I'm interested. And I have a feeling it's the episode you're about to talk about.
I don't know if it's like one episode in particular. I just felt like there was a kind of a switch where
There's
like
two back-to-back for me.
there's moments where I'm just like, I feel like this wasn't needed, or like, why are they here? I thought they were doing this kind of thing. Like, I get they have to stop to here and here, but I don't know. It just also some of the comedy just was eye rolling for me. Like,
Yeah.
so that would become
show-
like, oh,
this
like, I'm like, this is a
season
kid
meanders
show.
a
I have
bit.
to
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
not think of it so. You can't be. I'm not saying you can't be critical of it, but you can't like be like, well, this is
the
dumb.
lens in
because
which you use your critical eye
Yeah.
needs to be
I
adjusted.
try to be like, I'm a
perspective.
kid. I'm a 10-year-old kid.
I don't know why I said that. So it's such like your perspective is supposed to be different. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, because there are really good children's shows in general, and there are really bad children's shows, and all of them are going to feel different than like a premium premiere TV series, you know, that you would have on HBO or something like that. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, but no, I mean, I guess once we're going through the episodes here, it'll I can talk about some things that
Sure.
I think I liked or disliked. I took some notes, but I didn't really start taking notes until the only note
Yesterday.
I took was the first note I took was, I think it was the episode where there's the water serpent in the water.
Okay.
And that's where Aang
that's
says
like number
3 or 4,
Yeah.
5. That's where Aang says, "Where we're going, we don't need pants." And I wrote that
Okay.
down. Like, that's the
That's why
quote.
you wrote
That's
that
the
down.
quote. That's the
Oh my
quote.
God.
But I have other stuff. But
So, yeah, why don't we kick into it? We'll just to say the name of the episode, briefly what happens about it, and if we have anything to say about it, because there are 20 episodes in this season, so we'll try to
through it quickly.
Yeah.
So episode 1 is The Boy in the Iceberg.
It's basically intro. It's probably, in my opinion, one of the 2 slowest episodes.
It's a little slow. I don't mind it too much because it's introducing you to the characters, so I think it is important. I guess the idea of finding a boy in the ice is kind of interesting. But overall, I don't really... Yeah, nothing really happens. Aren't we introduced to... I'm so bad with names. I binge-watched the show, and I still forget everyone's name. Prince... Zuko. We're introduced to him as well,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So who are all our characters in this first episode? We have
Aang, who is the Airbender in the Iceberg, who is the Avatar, but we don't know this yet. Although, I would imagine if you were watching this back in the day, you would know.
I think he does mention something where he's just like, "Where am I?"
I don't think it's supposed to be a mystery.
Because I'm pretty sure they were like, Avatar. "Oh, you're the Avatar, dog," and then he's like, "Oh yeah, I was in ice, by the way." Yeah, well, I know. We found you in it.
We have Katara and Sokka, sister and brother, waterbenders from the Southern Water Tribe at the South Pole of the planet. And we have Prince Zuko and his uncle Mako. That's his name, right? No, that's the actor.
I was going to say that's the actor's name.
Iroh. Not really spoilers for the show itself, but he dies middle. That voice actor dies.
Oh, I think you're saying.
No. Sorry, that
I was going to say his picture.
He
does
if
look
that was the case. He died in the middle of season 2, recording.
Oh, he's in Conan the Barbarian. He's the narrator. Oh, that's dope.
Yeah,
sorry.
He died.
Pearl Harbor, Sand Pebbles. Okay.
So this was like the last thing he ever worked on was this show, and I guess he was famous to some extent. But yeah, Uncle Iroh. Sorry, not Mako. Been playing a lot of Final Fantasy, so Mako's been on the brain. And yeah, they basically free him from the iceberg, and it's just a introduction to all of those characters. Zuko is a firebending prince, and he is... I don't think they tell us that he is banished, but he's out looking for the Avatar with his uncle and their crew on a ship.
We learn later on that he's banished because he
spoke out of turn,
even though he was kind of right. And the only way he can be redeemed is finding the Avatar. But what's funny is when they're like, "Oh, go find the Avatar." I don't know if they didn't explain it well. This is later on. For me, they should have said "Oh, they sent him to go find it," even though they know that no one ever has found the Avatar. That basically it's an endless journey. But then they're like, "Oh yeah, the Avatar is here." So actually, it's convenient as hell that he got sent out. So it's it's pretty not easy, but he has a chance actually. But they never really made that clear. But because I feel like if you're a kid, you wouldn't have gotten that. But I don't know.
The ages of these characters are somewhat important too. Aang is 12. Katara and Sokka are I feel 13 and maybe 14.
They mentioned
is 17 or something like that.
They mentioned Sokka, he is at least 14 because the one episode they mentioned, "Oh, you have to do this test."
Yeah, when he becomes a man, essentially.
At 14. But they made it seem that was a year ago or two. So
yeah. So these are all children, obviously, and obviously as a kid show, kids want to relate to children, especially if they're slightly older children. Then you kind of look up to some of these people. So yeah, we were just introduced to those characters. There's nothing worth of note, but this is, I would say, at the height of the lame humor is in these first couple episodes.
Yeah, especially they go penguin sledding. That's where that's in this episode, I think.
Yeah, and the pacing of
the second one
of the show ramps up as the humor goes down, in my opinion. So the second episode was called "The Avatar Returns," and it's basically part 2 of the first episode. I feel they must have both have been put as a premiere when the show went up, back to back.
They must have, because they bring them to the southern pole there, the tribe, and then of course Sokka somehow sees all this happening. Or no, they go to that abandoned ship and it sends off a thing where he happens to be. But whatever, convenience.
You need coincidences to get some of these characters in play, I think. Of course, with expert writing, I guess you wouldn't need to, but I feel this...
It's fine. I'm not saying it's bad. It's just whatever.
No, having seen this show 3 times, like I said, I know how well written this whole world is and how the rules of this universe are set up, that I don't look at this as lazy writing, or as if like, oh, well, they can't create all these elaborate reasons, they must be lazy writing, because I see the fact that they're not through later stuff in this entire series. So to me, it's just whatever. We have 24 minutes to introduce everything, so just put him there. That's how I saw it.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine. I'm just saying, I just thought that was like funny, kind of like not.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't on purpose. I was just like, huh. Like,
especially since he didn't know that the Southern Water Tribe was there.
Yeah,
so he was literally in his mind in the middle of just ice.
Yeah,
So
they go there and they basically just mess shit up, right? They pillage it, looking for Aang. Don't they find Aang?
He gives himself up.
Yeah, like Gandhi.
Because they're gonna, who is from India. Wow. They reverse all that and they're all good, and they escape, and Zuko chases after him. This kind of sets up how the next, for the most of the season, really is set up, where
it's
these
like
characters are on the motion, and
like
Zuko is always chasing, always being the Team Rocket to their Ash, Misty, and Brock.
Wow, that is literally perfect.
No,
like
he is both Jesse James and Meowth. So yeah. Do you have anything to say about this other than that? You can hop straight to the third episode.
Like you said, it starts a little slow, and I think it doesn't help. Like I said, going in, I already was like, about it. Like,
and then this was like walking through wet sand.
Yeah,
I'm sure, because that is this show series overall, Last Airbender specifically, is really, really good. It's hard to get people in because you do have to step over the hurdle of this. For the most part, in my opinion, this entire first season is a bit of a hurdle because it gets so much better in season 2, as they introduce a lot more concepts, and especially these first few where it's like penguin sledding. Just stop! You're embarrassing me in front of my friend Devin. Stop! I'm trying to show that your show is cool. Stop!
It's fine. I mean, it's whatever. I mean, like I expected it to be maybe a little slow or whatever, or it would take me a little bit to get used to.
Yeah.
So the next episode 3, is the Southern Air Temple.
Yep.
It's where he returns home.
Oh, we forgot to say one more important character. Appa, the flying bison.
Oh, yes. I think he was in the first.
He's in both of them. He was in the Iceberg with him.
Yeah.
So they're on Appa and they're flying around. And they're going to go to the North Pole because Katara is a waterbender, but she doesn't really know how. And they know the Avatar is the Avatar, but he doesn't know waterbending. So they're gonna go to the North Pole with Sokka, her brother, who cannot waterbend, so that the two of them can learn how. And they make stops along the way. So that's these first few episodes going forward are like random stops. So sorry, go on.
Oh, that was it. I was gonna say their first real stop is Southern Air Temple. So that's where Aang returns home. And, like, no one's there, of course. I think there's a bunch of statues there with all the past Avatar. And it's by element, or is, like, their main element, I guess? Like, they're master of all, but, like...
They're born from one of them.
Yeah.
Like, he was born from the air nomads.
And the last one was fire.
Yeah. There's a cycle to it. And you can see, like... In that scene where they kind of pan up, you can actually see it in the thumbnail here, just this spiral of just all of these statues. They must move. It would suck to be the person like, God damn it, so and so died. Now we got to move all of these. You know what I mean? One by one.
This one guy has to go every 100 years, and
hopefully they're magic and they just work automatically.
I'm sure. Yeah.
It's a lot of exposition. This is the exposition episode.
Yeah, I remember there being a lot of information thrown at me, and I'm like, okay, I'll try to remember.
Yeah.
They kind of do remind you well enough, generally speaking.
And this is where Aang has to realize and face the facts that his people are all dead. Fire Nation killed them all. He's literally the last Airbender, hence the title of the show. And he needs to do the Avatar stuff. He needs to. He doesn't want to. He's afraid.
He's
and
12.
we see later why. Yeah, because he's a kid, and they weren't going to do it right away. But like, Fire Nation was attacking, so they're like, no, we need to expedite this process here because we need an avatar. So that's it about for that episode. Really, it's just like, all right, you face the music, now you really need to do your stuff, and all the exposition.
I forgot to say the design of the Fire Nation is like super dope. I think it combines a mix of like, if you know what a sultan is, which is like a Middle East, but I think there are parts of it might have been in Asia because of the Mongolian Empire, maybe some of that like aesthetic that they have with the spiky helmets and whatnot. But the guards look 100% like sultans, like.
In a sense,
spot on. Other moments of it
puffy
looks,
stuff.
Some parts of it also look like Mongolian, like ancient Mongolian armor and stuff. And I'm like, dope.
Well, they are definitely based off of Japan, but they're not like straight up. Now let's take their naval uniform.
Like I was saying, like
they're
all of them
doing
have
that,
like
so.
elements of different types in the area. So it's not like one is like, this is China. You know, like, oh, we took China mixed with Korea to get this kind of mix. Like nothing was really like a direct cut. There's like elements of everything, which I thought was dope. But for some reason, I like the Fire Nation the most out of all of them. I think they're
for sure
they're hot. Get it?
So episode 4 is called The Warriors of Kyoshi. Another stop they make for literally no reason other than Aang wants to see the fish that's there. Is this island where the I don't know if they say, but it's the avatar that's 2 previous from Aang. That's where she lived, whose name was Kyoshi. And they're upset that Aang is there. They don't believe... I forget really what happened, but essentially he is full of himself this entire episode until he has to gain a bit of humility.
Because doesn't he like basically stunt the entire time? Like
the entire time, yeah.
All that, like,
because all these little kids are impressed by his airbending stuff until they start to grow bored, and he realizes that he pushed away some of his actual friends that weren't giving him constant attention.
That he met literally a week ago.
Yeah, well,
because he has no friends. He has no friends.
It's the first friends he's made in over 100 years.
Yeah, that's where the sea serpent
of jokes
is.
Like that.
Sea serpent's in that, and that's a dope sea serpent. 10 out of 10
Scary
sea serpent.
Too.
Yeah.
Why would you live on that island if you knew that thing was there?
Hey, sometimes you have a god. You have a god that surrounds your island. He's a protector. Maybe I don't know.
He was clearly hungry.
But that's like a lot. I know that's in a lot of like island cultures. There used to be like, oh, there's some sort of mystical beast that like is in the ocean that protects us from, you know, forms of nature or like invaders. But at the same time, it might be bad. We have to give it a sacrifice every month, or else it'll be mad at us, kind of thing. That's where I kind of saw that. But maybe I'm just watching too many Godzilla films.
And this is the episode where now the world is starting to know that he's around.
Yeah.
I'm forgetting some of the Zuko stuff and all this, but we can kind of, as we get a little bit further, talk about his thing in parallel. Episode 5 is called The King of Omashu, an Earth Kingdom city Avatar Aang used to visit when 100 years ago. I said when he was a kid, but no, he's still a kid. We used to hang out with a friend of his that lived there, but now it's 100 years later, and it's completely different. It's far more like strict and protective. It's one of the few Earth Kingdom cities that gets to retain some autonomy from the Fire Nation, because the Fire Nation is pretty much...
Isn't this one where they're on like a sled down like the...
Yeah.
Okay.
What's the term I want to use? Occupied. Kind of like when Nazi Germany occupied Poland. They're kind of like everywhere, and this is one of the few cities that gets to be autonomous from all of that. And it has a crazy king who just so happens to be the friend Aang had there 100 years ago.
But we don't find that out until later. But they hint at it like pretty early on.
So many times, like it's. I feel like it's pretty obvious. If you're going to set something up at the beginning of a 24-minute cartoon episode that has no purpose at all, you know what I mean? That'd be weird. So it's a bit obvious sometimes. Yeah, this is another, I don't want to say filler episode because...
I enjoyed this one more than, like, besides the sea serpent, like all the other ones. I would say this is my second favorite one up until this point. I would say the Warriors
Okay.
of Kyoshi are my favorite episode up until this point.
Oh, we forgot. Warriors of Kyoshi has a bunch of women on it.
Yeah, they're badass mofos.
I forgot what one of them was named. The main one, Suki. That's right. I don't know if you remember this, but years ago, back when I had already seen the show, and you were like, "Oh, this show's dumb and lame," you showed me on YouTube a supercut someone did where they talked over the episode and called it the girl power episode.
I don't even remember, yo. That's
Yeah.
I wouldn't. That does sound like something I would do. So I don't know.
This was the obligatory girl power episode for this show.
It's not true.
Yeah.
That is not true because later on there is some women empowerment stuff, but there's also moments where it's slightly
I don't
toxic
believe this.
masculinity.
This
There's
is
moments
what-
later on where like I feel like there's certain things that I noticed that I'm like this could be empowering, but then there's also moments like this is also pretty toxic if you're a boy. But we'll talk about that when we get to those episodes. But
For the record, I did not find that video funny back in the day.
I don't even remember it.
That's one of my few memories of like I gotta prove this motherfucker wrong. This show's good, but yeah, King of Omashu, said and done. Like I said, this is a filler episode, but since we don't know too much about these characters, these are the kind of filler episodes. These are the kind of shows. Sorry, these are the kind of episodes that how you get to learn people's personalities. When it's like high conflict, go go go, you don't get to see any of that in a lot of types of media. That's why filler episodes are very important, even though they can be boring if you're waiting. Oh, what's going to happen next week? Is he going to see Avatar Roku? Oh, man, there's 2 episodes in between that are about blah, blah, blah. I don't care. You know what I mean? So it's a double-edged sword.
Well, that's what's funny is I like those two out of all of them. These first two. This is when I feel like I was like, okay, these are fine. I'll take this. I'm like, give me more monsters, and there's monsters in both of them, so I think that helped. And I just thought it was cool. I thought
the trials he had to do.
Yeah, I thought those were cool. I'm like, that's fun.
So episode 6 is called Imprisoned. They go to another part of the Earth Kingdom. I don't know where exactly on the map they are.
This is a nearby Earth village. So is this within the same like area as Omashu?
Yeah, probably.
I don't know.
Essentially, this is like the opposite of Omashu, where Omashu is very autonomous. This is very much occupied by the Fire Nation, so we get to see the reverse of Omashu in a sense, where if you're a strapping young man, you're going to get put to work, essentially.
Occupy Wall Street.
Yep. And like I had said at the beginning of all this, not everyone can bend. Only some people can, and it's the one thing this show does weird is that they kind of change how frequent benders are to non-benders.
At first,
like,
it feels like no one
make
can.
it seem just like
No one has,
only,
and all of a
this one
sudden,
rare
like
person can.
Later on, it's like, oh yeah, dog, like the entire village, dude.
Yeah,
everyone knows how to bend.
It really
they feel
starts
like they also,
to change up,
but they do feel like they also show more bending later on, so that might have something to do with it. They don't show it as often, so I feel like maybe that's why it feels like there's less people. But I know what you mean. I feel like I don't know. This episode is the first like Earth, because of
Omashu. Yeah, he's bending
Earth.
the rocks there.
That's our first real fight too. I feel like with Earth.
I mean,
versus
there
air.
are scuffles with Prince Zuko.
But I mean, like with Earth and air. So I'm like, it was first real challenge. I feel like, but then we have this one has. Don't they fight in this too? They fight off the Fire Nation again.
Yeah, because this one's about they're occupied by the Fire Nation, and especially if they see anyone that's earthbending, I don't think that's supposed to be illegal. I don't think the Fire Nation ordained that any of it's illegal because obviously it's very useful if you can move.
I don't think you can use it without
permission.
Yeah,
you're right. Yeah, so if they find out that this guy named Haru can earthbend, if they find out that he can earthbend, they're going to put him to work or put him in prison. And that does happen, and Katara wants to bust him out because she feels empathy because she's a waterbender, and they connect because they both lost their mom, et cetera, et cetera. And so they're on this prison barge that's completely made of metal, so there's no earthbending. And the warden of this is it a very eccentric voiced man. Do you know who voiced this character?
I think I might have looked this up.
This is George Takei from Star Trek fame.
I was
The
gonna
Oh
say,
My guy. Just using his normal voice.
I was going to say, it sounds so familiar, and I believe I did look it up.
Yeah.
At the time. And I'm like, oh.
Yep. Weird guest appearance. I don't know how any of that happened, but yeah, using that. This is a filler episode that actually has Fire Nation conflict with it, so that's good. And I'm forgetting parts of.
There's a lot of actors, by the way, like just they're like half of them have been in Man in the High Castle that I've seen. Like half of them, I'm like, this guy sounds familiar. I look him up, I'm like, oh well, shit, he was this guy in Man in the High Castle, or he was. A lot of them actually.
One of the side characters in Breaking Bad voices a character in Final Fantasy VII Remake. But I've had seen that show so long ago that I get to distance myself from the voice, but it's the same voice. Now episodes 7 and 8 are where I think the show really starts to take its, I don't want to say take itself seriously, but really starts to give Aang like purpose, because he's not really inspiring throughout any of this because he's a kid, but now he's kind of forced to do some of his duties. So it's called the Winter Solstice, parts 1 and 2, and the first part is called the Spirit World. They're at a village that basically gets attacked by a spirit every night or every other night, something like that.
Every night, I think, yeah.
Yeah. And since this is where part of the exposition is given that, oh, there's a spirit world that's like parallel to this one. It's where all the spirits live, which is a very Eastern thing to believe. And the Avatar, one of the Avatar's duty is to actually make peace with the spirit world. In case anything happens, he's supposed to be the bridge. They call him the bridge between the two worlds. This is the first time this is ever brought up. It's like, wow, I thought he was supposed to like keep this world at peace. He's also supposed to keep this other one at peace. So he can't do any of it. He's trying but failing, etc. And eventually kind of hits, but it's not in a way where he does it on his own. He gets some help, right?
I thought he gets attacked. He's chasing. He sees the spirit monster or whatever, and it takes what's his name there?
Takes Sokka, right?
Yeah, it takes Sokka, and then like he chases him down, then loses him in like an empty forest or whatever, which we find out later on was burned by the Fire Nation. So the spirit is actually a panda that's upset, I guess, but it's nature that's upset. I do like the design of this monster, by the way. I'm trying to remember how he gets there. I think it's by accident. It wasn't. I know it wasn't on purpose. I'm trying to remember how he.
I'm forgetting too. It's not really important, I guess, but he has to be led to learning these powers. Because again, he is a 12-year-old kid. He was supposed to be brought on a path. That path is taken away from him. He has to learn on his own. So he needs help along the way. And I don't know if it's in this episode or not. No, it is in this episode. He gets a message from, so it's like through the panda spirit that he gets contacted by the previous avatar, Roku, that says, in order for us to really talk, you need to go to this island during this winter solstice where the sun is at this point and there's an eclipse, and it's this elongated process to talk to his previous self.
Which is lame because later on in the season, he's able to talk to him whatever in the spirit world. And I'm like...
Part of that was he needed to be unlocked.
Yeah, was he only unlocked? That's why I was...
Yeah.
Like still, you made this so difficult, Roku. Come on, bro. You knew, like, if you knew this was going to happen or something, make it a little easier.
Yeah. It is this aspect of the show that gets brought back and forth every now and then, and it gets very complicated. So yeah, basically, the episode afterwards is just called Avatar Roku, which means 4 in Japanese, but I don't really know what, like maybe he was named 4 because of the 4 elements. I'm just trying to guess why he was named Roku, but
and then Aang changed his name to Avatar Hulu.
Exactly.
Avatar Prime.
Roku is also
Oh, he could. He should have been.
That's what Fire TV.
Fire TV.
Fire TV Stick. Although now they talk to you. They're a cube and they talk.
Avatar Alexa. Just it's not even like a service anymore. It's just it talks to you.
No. But he needs to go to an island that's in the Fire Nation, which is very dangerous because the people that want to catch him are there. So they go, and they are seen, and they are kind of caught, and they also kind of get away, and they eventually do the whole Avatar thing, and he contacts him. I'll get to the other parts about this, skipping ahead. He's able to talk to Roku, and he says, yeah, there's a comet that's coming by. First time the comets will fly by in over 100 years, and the heat from that comet will give the Fire Nation enough power to destroy and win the war.
Isn't there someone in it?
No, it's named after the Fire Nation, Fire Lord, that he first started the war with that comet. And so the current Fire Lord Ozai, or no, I forget what... Ozai is the current Fire Lord. Hosen is Hosen's comet. They name it after the first Fire Lord that used it, which is the grandfather of Ozai. Something like that. I'm forgetting.
I was going to say...
Anyway, Ozai is going to finish the war with the comet, and so they need to defeat him before the comet arrives, otherwise it's too late.
This is a moment in the show where I'm like, I wish it was a little bit different. Not saying I don't like it. I would have rather... I think they should have went with this. Like, I get the Fire Nation. Fire Nation's already, like, seems OP. Like, they have pretty much the whole world on lock, generally speaking. Like, they're like Great Britain right now in, like, the 1600s. Like, they have colonies everywhere. Like, everyone's afraid of them. No one's really stood a chance. People are trying to live in peace when they can. But I think it would have been cool, maybe, if the comet was just, like, a regular comet. Like, it's just going to blow up the Earth. But we need everyone's unity to fight it somehow. Like, maybe, like, there's a way for all the colonies, all the nations. I was trying to think of the word. All the nations came together and have to fight it. But like maybe because I'm like, oh, Aang's has to be the bringer of peace. Maybe that's one way he can bring peace is to fight a common enemy.
Yeah, well, you haven't seen the rest of the show.
I'm like, so maybe that's what happens. I'm assuming it happens.
My opinions on that, but. Yeah, it's going to pass by, and he's going to use it to win the war. You got to stop him beforehand. Oh, time's up.
They got to send a rocket with, what's his face?
Arnold Schwarzenegger?
No, Armageddon.
That wasn't Schwarzenegger?
No.
Who was it then?
It's not not Schwarzenegger. You're thinking of Total Recall.
Maybe. Anyway, throughout these first few episodes, Zuko is constantly chasing
Bruce
him.
Willis.
Bruce, that's what Bruce Willis.
Michael
Bay
Bay
the same.
directed it. I didn't know that.
Zuko and his uncle are constantly chasing after Avatar Aang, and like Team Rocket, they're always involved in the conflict of the episode. Uncle Iroh, who is his uncle, is very wise, but also very fat and kind of lazy, but he's extremely wise, and he's there when needed, but he's not always on point. He's kind of relaxing. He's taking this more of as a vacation. We learn that he was a war hero, but he retired when he lost a war against a city in the Earth Kingdom called Ba Sing Se, which I won't talk anymore about that because it is brought up later. And so he's kind of just with his nephew to make sure, because he knows that, like you had said, like it's not like they knew that the Avatar was coming back. No one's seen him in 100 years. They're not going to see him. This was kind of like a grow up. We're banishing you until we decide you can come back, essentially. So he is there with his nephew to kind of help guide him as a man, essentially, teach him lessons and whatnot. And throughout this, they have their own little bit of struggles where it's like, oh, the crew doesn't respect you because you treat them like shit. We're getting over to here and blah, 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 blah. You got to learn and respect your opponents. All these kinds of lessons. In one of the episodes, I forget which one's earlier than this. It is found, like Zuko wants to keep it a secret that they're chasing the Avatar from other firebenders, because if they all know, then it's going to be harder for him to catch it, because he thinks that if he catches the Avatar, his honor's restored. And it's revealed in one of the early episodes that he was finally able to go to a war meeting.
This is later on. Was it?
That's right. You know, it is revealed later.
The Blue Spear episode.
That's right.
Or the Storm. This is the Storm. The Storm episode.
In the Storm episode, but it's brought up the fact that he is banished by his own father, for reasons I guess we find out a little bit later in a few more episodes. And in order to catch the Avatar, he needs to actually find him, catch him, or whatever. So he wants to keep it a secret. A general, whose name I forget, firebending general, eventually does learn from him, and so like they're in conflict with one another. And they do a I forget the name of it, but a firebending duel, and Zuko wins. This is part of his lessons of like, you need to treat your opponent with respect because your opponent did not treat you with respect, and that's how he lost. So there's all this kind of stuff, and this comes back around in these 2 Winter Solstice episodes where that guy ends up coming back, ends up getting in Zuko's way, but the 2 of them fighting each other enough is what allows Avatar, Aang, and crew to get out. So the hunt is still on for him. So then episode 9 is the Waterbending Scroll. This is one of the more boring episodes in my opinion. I feel like these next 3 are some of my least favorites, which I'm sure is going to be the complete
this also
opposite
makes
for you.
the journey to like the North Pole like almost seem illegitimate. Like, oh, we found a scroll that like teaches you everything, and I'm like,
yeah.
I'm granted, I know it's like doesn't teach you like to be a master, but it seems to be heighten everyone's abilities who reads it, and of course, Aang's a god when doing it. But I'm like, I feel like you could just move on to Earth at this point, dog. Like, it seems you have watered down. Yeah, I feel like he already has.
You're on a time limit here.
But like at this point, though, there's moments where like I think it's during this episode he's able to like water bend like a river, and I'm like, okay, I think he has this shit down. Like, I don't know why you guys need to go all the way to North Pole at this point. I know, granted,
he needs to be a master at it of all 4 to like really fight the Fire Lord and the Fire Nation, but at the same time try to kind of learn some of all of them and then get the mastering thing when you can, you know.
Yeah,
maybe.
I don't know.
Although we do kind of see this a little bit later when a fire teacher pops up, and he's way too early for him to learn any of that. So I guess it is kind of going against what we were just saying, but they steal from some pirates. The pirates chase them. Zuko and the pirates get into a scuffle. Blah 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 blah.
They fight.
They're off.
Yeah.
It's
pirates do come back though.
They do. They do. Episode 10, the halfway point of the season, is called Jet. This is definitely a very Peter Pan episode, or also Robin Hood in a sense, maybe a combination of the two.
Yeah.
Actually, almost exactly a combination of the two. Bunch of kids in the woods, rough up firebenders because they've all lost. They're basically all orphans from the Fire Nation, essentially. They've all killed their families and whatnot. And they try to protect people, get back at them, but they're an extremist group. We learn this is also like Sokka's big episode to shine, where we actually do start to trust his instincts now.
Yeah,
because he is the joke character a lot. Like,
maybe you put some respect on him, dude.
Yeah.
Sokka's my boy right now. Like, dude,
he has good episodes later to come, so don't worry about that.
Good, because they've been they make him seem like a joke, and I'm like, no, dude.
Yeah, he's just hungry all the time.
Well, big boy got to eat.
Also, they have like a lemur now.
Oh yeah, we totally forgot.
A while back. Lemur is just really nothing to him. He's just a lemur. We also didn't mention that Aang can fly. He has a stick that can unfold like a glider, but whatever.
Those are minor.
Yeah, minor little details. Doesn't matter. Basically, Jet and crew are willing to destroy a town to get rid of Fire Nation people.
Like, kill a lot of innocent people.
That is way too extreme for the crew, but no one wanted to believe Sokka because they just think Sokka's jealous and Sokka is being a bitch and blah, 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 blah.
Oh, in this episode, really early on, I wrote this down. I did write this down. Because he wants to be a lead. He says he's the leader of the group, and they're like, "No, you're not the leader." And then his sister makes a joke saying, "I bet you would be more of a leader if you kiss a girl." And I'm like, that's some toxic masculinity bullshit. All right,
it's true.
It's like basically what she says. Like, maybe if you lost your virginity, you wouldn't be such a bitch.
Yeah. Well,
Like,
this
are
is
you even
also
a man?
2005.
I know, but I'm just like, don't be telling our kids that. Come on. Because then the kids are going to go, all the little boys are going to go to school and be like, man, I haven't kissed a girl yet.
I'm pathetic.
I can't be a leader in my gym class. Or my Boy Scout troop
In
later.
my gym class.
Or my chess club. I can't be no leader.
How did you like this episode?
What's funny is I thought the characters, I don't know why. You're more of a fan than I am. Or I know some songs by them, but for some reason their aesthetic remind me a lot of the Gorillaz.
I can see that. The one with the shaggy hair, Killer Smeller Bee or something like that. Yeah.
I saw that. I'm like, is this the Gorillaz up in here?
The way the nose design is on some of them, yeah.
Yeah. I didn't mind it. I like this because it kind of showed the morality of our characters. Like, this is like they hate the Fire Nation, but these guys like are doing another extreme where like we need to murder them all. Just like even if it means like
these guys
killing,
are terrorists.
Yeah, they're pretty much. Like,
there's a difference between like freedom fighters. Well, freedom fighters and terrorists. It just depends on who wins, I guess. But how they're
United
referred
States
to,
likes to call certain groups freedom fighters, of course.
Yeah. But these guys essentially are terrorists. Like, they're willing to, and it's through Sokka's first defiance of this from having Jet hurt an old man, which is what allowed it all to end up good in the end. So,
but it doesn't Katara. Did we mention that Katara like thought Jet?
She thinks he's cute,
hot.
He's not a firebender. You can't say that. By the way, it's like, I know we talked about how the humor is lame. That is a joke that happens way too late in this series, and it is way too out of place. When it's like, firebenders are hot, right? Kind of a joke. It's so lame.
Oh, we didn't talk about the one joke that's reoccurring, which is my cabbages.
Yes. That is, there's always a cabbage selling guy, and he always seems to be during...
And even times when he's not there, I've seen instances where like the town floods, and I see like it shows like cabbages.
Yeah. So. That is a reoccurring joke in the entire Avatar universe thing, which is funny. Especially in the sequel series. So this next episode is number 11. It's called The Great Divide. This is my least favorite episode in this entire season. It is so boring. It is so pointless. Really? This is filler for filler's sake, 100%.
Really? See, I had my attention more to this because I was like, this episode kind of talks a little bit about like prejudices and like almost class division a little bit. Maybe I'm like thinking way too much into it, but there's moments in there where I'm like, this is actually good for kids to learn. Being like, just because someone looks different from you or you heard a rumor doesn't mean it's true. But then it
can all be mended by lies.
But then it kind of like shits on that whole idea by lying, like Aang lies by like, he kind of helps them, but like he meant well.
Fair, though,
he meant well, but like now we really don't.
Based off of a petty little story,
I guess.
True. Maybe a lie is.
I'm just saying, like they could have addressed it better. I don't know. Like I feel like they had a message that they could have hammered home more. And then like they only put the nail in halfway, and then they got the hammer and pulled it out at the end. And I'm like, oh, you guys have something.
They used the hammer on all the giant bugs that were attacking.
True. I don't know. Scary. I was just like, I was pulled in the whole time, and then they ended it with that, and I'm like, really? Oh, like that was a missed opportunity, I think, for them to like, because I feel like some of these episodes have a lesson of being like, innocent. You shouldn't kill innocent people that are, or not everyone's to blame in. Like the Fire Nation's bad, but like there's a lot of innocent people maybe on that side, or be nice to your friends. It's like from either big ideas or small ideas or like little lessons. I'm like, this is a kid's show, and I feel like this one could have been nice, and they just kind of, I don't know.
Yeah.
The first one I used was a bad example. I'm like, there's bad, good people. Yeah.
Yeah. These next two episodes are the turning point in this season, 100%. Episode 12, The Storm, was one that I saw on TV, and I'm like, oh, now I'm intrigued. This doesn't seem goofy anymore, at least in this when it's trying to not be goofy. It didn't feel goofy to me back in the time. This is basically a gigantic exposition episode that tells the backstory of both Aang and Zuko through basically a storm, and the storm is going on, and so there's given a quiet moment for them to talk about what's going on. So when Aang really faces the fact that he feels like he betrayed his people and the world by running away from his responsibility, which is why he got encased in ice.
That old man basically just like shat on him.
Yeah, and he's like, he's right, you know. He doesn't know he's talking to
the
Avatar,
millennial, he Gen Z.
but
you know what? I had to take my
Aang
bootstraps.
isn't Gen Z. Aang is like even before Baby Boomer because he's over 100.
True. I was just saying, like, I just thought of like when an old dude yells at you in the supermarket to get off your phone or something. I don't know.
Oh my god,
that's how I felt. I know that's not even.
That's when
the case,
you whip it out and be like, "Hey man, I'm Instacart, man.
I'm
making money,
making big dollars.
What you doing?
What you
doing?
doing?
You can't
dog?
even read. You're too old." But yeah, that's, I guess, a shorthand for Aang's story. But it's like really remorseful and sad, and you know he's brought to the conclusion that, well, he can still make things right, and his friends are there, and it's a happy thing for them. The flip side of that is also learning about Zuko's banishment. He was banished because he spoke out of turn. I was starting to say this earlier when I forgot that this was in this episode. Because this is when he's fighting with his crew, and the crew are like, "You're such an asshole to us." It's like, stop being an asshole. But like, they can't really complain to him because he's the prince, whatever. And Iroh was telling them the story about Zuko's banishment. He was finally allowed to be in a Fire Nation war room, which had his father there overseeing all of his generals discussing battle plans. And this is, I think, one of the most interesting parts of this season, or like, you know, a really good aspect of it. The plan is basically to use a whole bunch of rookie Fire Nation troops as bait to lure in, I forget which kingdom they were going to be fighting. It doesn't matter. And then the actual real squad will come in from behind and wipe them out, basically sacrificing the rookies so that they can win. And Zuko slams up and says, "You can't do that. These people love their nation. They're here to serve and fight for their nation. You can't betray them like this."
Leave them out
but
to
he's
die,
speaking out of
basically.
turn.
Like, yeah, they're gonna. Some may die, but you aren't gonna put them in a situation where you're basically just using it as a trap.
You are sending them specifically to die, because you know that they'll be outclassed. But he spoke out of turn, so he needs to be banished now. He does Agni Kai. That is the name of the firebending duel, an Agni Kai. He thinks he's going to be doing an Agni Kai with the specific general that talked about the plan, but no, by disrespecting the war meeting itself, while the Fire Lord is there, his father, he's actually disrespecting the Fire Lord. So when he realizes he has to fight his own father, he refuses to. The Fire Lord gives him the scar on his face. He has a big red fire scar on his eye. It's actually kind of dope. To be honest, it's a kind of a cool thing to have. I'm sure it hurts, though. I'm sure you can't really move your left eye all that much. And banishes him because he refused to fight. That's how we get his story. So while at the end of the day, Zuko is still a dick to his crew, they do understand a bit more of where he's coming from. And they do get a emotion that, like, because the whole time Zuko treats his crew as expendable. We need to go after the Avatar, even though it's like wearing his crew out. And finally, at the end, he's like, we need to wait out the storm. We can't chase the Avatar. And so, like, there's kind of a bit of a better understanding. Zuko kind of learns a bit, too. Mm-hmm. So, what did you think of that episode?
I mean, it finally gave us more backstory of where the scar comes from. Not that I really need to know, but, like, it's kind of weird to see a young kid with a scar. So I feel like that's got to be some part of the reason why he's so edgy, besides him just being an edgy teen.
Yeah.
But it also just gives him... You're almost cheering for him now, in a way. Like, I feel like...
Every good villain is, in a way,
well,
a hero.
He's not even a villain. Like, I see him more of as, like, at this point, not an anti-hero, but not, like... He isn't... Like you said with Team Rocket, there was moments when Team Rocket and Pokemon was, like, you were loving them for what they were doing. Or there was moments where, like, they made decisions that, like... they had to make for the greater good,
mm-hmm.
or whatnot. Like, they had good qualities in them still, they're just on the wrong side of things.
Yeah.
When when his father, he's the real bad guy. The Fire Lord's the real bad guy. He's just kind of their pawn, in a sense. He probably if he wasn't banished, he probably wouldn't give two shits about the Avatar.
Yeah.
Maybe they're not true because he loves his nation or whatever. But in a different world, I think there's later on, Aang says we could be friends, maybe.
Yeah. It is this episode where we are really introduced, not completely introduced to the Fire Lord, but we see a little bit of him and we hear a little bit of him. And this is the episode where we hear him for the first time. He is voiced by Mark Hamill, a.k.a. Luke Skywalker, a.k.a. the Joker.
I didn't notice, no.
He has way more speaking lines in later seasons. So, because I think we only hear from him again at the final episode of the season. So, when he's talking to someone. But yeah, so there's that. This is the turning point for this season and for the show itself, really.
Definitely picks up
actually
more.
It starts to be cooler. And this next episode is my favorite episode in the season for sure. Maybe in the series itself, just because this was the one where I'm like, all right, this is really cool. Basically, this episode's called The Blue Spirit. Katara and Sokka are getting sick. Aang goes and seeks a herbologist, searching
witch.
for the word. I'm actually surprised I found the term. She says you need to get these frozen frogs and then they can lick them. But during that, he gets captured by the fire general that from a previous episode, who got some badass archers, I guess.
Yeah, if they miss by even a little bit, he loses an arm. Aang at least loses an arm. Part of me wishes
essentially.
There's moments in this show where I'm I wish it had Castlevania level of gore, the Castlevania
show the violence.
Show me I want Aang to get hit with an arrow, and bleed.
Yeah.
There's moments where their hands get burned later on, and I'm finally some damage to these fools.
Yeah, they start to, again, this is the first season, and it feels experimental on Nickelodeon executive stance, and the writers are pushing things, so it starts to get a bit more to pushing the line of what they can do on young children's TV.
To me, at this point, this is more of a teen show, at this point.
Yeah. Aang gets captured, and the Blue Spirit seeks in and tries to bust him out. This is a silent figure who uses two scimitars. I think they're scimitars. They're curved, right?
They're dope blades.
And he has this cool blue yokai kind of mask, the Blue Spirit. Although it doesn't really have horns. It's not really a yokai.
Yeah, it doesn't. It's more of
Wait, I'm thinking of an oni. A yokai is just basically a spirit in Japanese. So,
and then oni
it is basically a yokai.
Yeah, they're all very similar to a samurai mask, or I think China also has different types of masks similar to this as well. It's like a demon.
He's real. Yeah. This guy is real silent, and he's real badass with his swords, and he's making fools of people, and he's stealthy, sneaks in. Aang thinks he's there to kill him at first, but then he's busting him out, and Aang's like, okay, you're here to save me. Let's get out of here. So they work together. There's a cool scene where they're standing on these long poles of wood, using them as stepping stones to get across this giant yard, essentially, in this prison, and to get out. This is fast forwarding because we are kind of lagging behind on time, but they do get out. But the Blue Spirit is hit in the mask, I believe, with an arrow and is knocked out. But Aang takes him with him and saves him. And he takes the mask off, and who does he see, Devin?
Who does he see? Do you want me to say it?
Yeah.
Oh, it's our boy. I almost said Sokka. I'm so bad with names. I know who it is. Zuko.
It's Zuko.
Jesus. I should have said Tom Hardy.
Grimace from McDonald's.
Yeah,
Zuko is the one that saved him. So Aang is really confused. Why would Zuko save him? And so when he wakes up, Zuko does try to get him or whatever, and that's when the line you said earlier, we could be friends.
We could be homies, but
friends.
We
could be friends.
You playing? Me and you can get away from this place. Me and you.
Our fate is tied up in this matter. and Aang gets away, and he saves his six friends. So this was my favorite episode in the season. I don't know, what did you think of it?
It's definitely up there, top 5 for me. I mean, I kind of wish maybe sometimes he wasn't Zuko, just because I like this version of him maybe a little bit better. Like, I feel like when he's regular Zuko, he's, uses his fire and stuff. Like, I'm like, why doesn't he use more of his stealth?
He seems way more capable this way.
Yeah, than without even any sort of abilities.
Yeah. So that was episode 13. Episode 14 is a very filler episode called The Fortune Teller.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
This was another boring episode. This
you
is
already
one of
knew
those
it was going to happen as soon as they mentioned the
versus
volcano.
Not science things. This is boring.
But I guess it's a lesson for kids. For kids, if you're a kid.
But it's such like a boring like. Yes, I explain why it rains. Like, yes, we have reasons why. It's boilerplate like arguments over facts and non-facts. It's dumb.
And then Ben Shapiro arrives in the episode at the very end, and he proves them all wrong. And then Aang's like, you know what? You're right. You're right, Ben.
You're right. You're not complicit in the killing of all those people in that mosque. You're right.
And that's how the show ends.
We don't believe
then
that.
Then the credits go,
by the way.
Go to the...
Episode 15 is called Bato of the Water Tribe. This is another celebrity guest voice. I wonder if you can place this voice.
Look.
Don't look it up. Don't look it up. Don't you dare.
Who? Do I know it?
So they meet Bato of the Water Tribe, which is Sokka and Katara's an uncle-like figure to them. He is basically one of their father's like right-hand man. He's got a voice. Voice is placed in a much older character in this popular video game. He's Sully from Uncharted. Yeah. He did a lot of cartoons during this era, looking through his IMDb. But this is where Aang feels like he might be losing friends because they might go back to their tribe, and he lies to them, hides important pieces of information so that they can still be with him, and it bites him in the ass because obviously if you hide the fact that you know where their father is from them,
and then
he learns how stupid he was in that.
I was gonna say there's one guy here too who plays Hakoda, Andre Sagaluzzo. I just looked him up. He is in Polar Express as Smokey the Steamer.
Yay.
And he's also Tony Montana in the Scarface game on Xbox.
Oh my god.
And in Transformers Revenge as Sideswipe.
We don't need to go through IMDb for everything.
I know. I'll
tell you if there's someone famous.
I just clicked it. And I just happened. I'm like, huh? Like I said, there's a lot of voice actors in here who've been in a lot of like just random things.
Yep.
So
yep. So we got our Sully in here. This is where Sokka proves himself as a good leader, a real good leader. So episode 16 is called The Deserter. Basically
the dessert.
Yeah, there's 2 S's in the word dessert, Devin.
The deserter.
They meet a fire-bending teacher who left the Fire Nation, and he's all secretive and hidey, and we also learn that he was the guy that taught that fire general, because he's involved in this episode as well. Of course he is. Obviously Zuko is still a part of these episodes, still being Team Rocket to him, essentially, learning lessons from his uncle, etc. Aang gets overzealous with learning how to do firebending. Ruko puts the fear of God into this firebending teacher because he says he's not going to teach him, and then Ruko like pops out of his head and says, "You better fucking do it, or I'm going to burn you alive." But Aang gets a little bit too excited, ends up hurting Katara, and he swears off firebending. That's that episode.
The voice actor of the fire, what's his name?
I forget.
Jong?
Yeah.
I recognized his voice, and he's also from Man in the High Castle, and in Samurai Jack as the young emperor. So he was doing this and Samurai Jack, probably making bank on both, because both shows are on at the same time.
Yeah. Well, as we see, he's only in 1 episode in this season, so I don't know how much, but...
Oh, sorry. Well, yeah, but...
well,
he does disappear, so maybe he comes back.
I won't. I refuse to tell you.
You don't unless you show him saying goodbye, he coming back.
It's true. I guess the same could be said for all the other characters. Maybe. Episode 17, The Northern Air Temple. This is one of the most... I don't agree with what this episode's trying to say, essentially. But they go to the Northern Air Temple, and obviously all the airbenders are gone, and they find out that a new group of people are living here. An inventor and his son who's in a wheelchair, and all these people, they're living there now, and they're like destroying the temple and making it their home. And I don't know if there's supposed to be a message about like, well, yes, life is a cycle, so therefore is the things we leave behind. But like, do they really need to smash that mural?
Yeah, and at the end he's like, oh, do whatever you want, and I'm like, does he have to, they kind of like were blowing shit up and knocking down walls, like they could like move in.
You don't want to preserve
normally.
any of that stuff?
Like imagine, like that's...
Aang doesn't have any people, so there's no one to inherit that culture. But like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's weird. Once again, I feel like they had a message that they could have gone with, and then they kind of just didn't
this
fully
is
go
also
with it.
Important because the inventor basically invents hot air balloons for the Fire Nation, and before delivering them, they fight the Fire Nation, blah, blah, blah. They liberate this Northern Air Temple and their people, but at the cost of leaving one of the balloons behind, and the Fire Nation gets it, so they learn how this stuff works. These next 3 episodes show that our cast gets to the North Pole finally, after maybe 12 episodes of meandering around for no reason, and a couple episodes of actual story. First episode is we actually see the waterbending master, this old man. And for some reason, and again, this is just like the ratio of benders and non-benders. This weird little rule is also completely like changed later. Like, why does this guy not want to teach any women? Because that does not fit the rest of the show going on anyway.
I was gonna say though, at least that's even though like he does this at the end, be like, oh, never mind, women are great, they can do it. I feel like it is good though. Once again, I'm trying to put my kid shoes on and look at this, being like, if I'm a kid who might not learn these lessons, I guess like we learn a lot from media and people don't realize it, and. Mm-hmm. Like I said, there's moments in the show where I'm like, it's might not be teaching kids the right thing. There's moments in the show where I feel like it is teaching the kids the right thing. Maybe they don't do as well of a job as they could have because, like you said, I think they were trying to make this more of a story-driven show just about the characters, less about lessons or anything like that. But I feel like you could still do that. In this episode, I'm like, maybe they could talk about like, yeah, women can be warriors, women can be leaders, women can be waterbenders. You know what I mean? It goes back to the whole like women can be Jedi thing too. I kind of look at it like that. So I feel like this episode is a good for maybe women or girls rather watching this. But at the same time, I don't know how well did they do that? Because right in the beginning, they're like, Aang's like, nah, dog, like she can bend, like she should be able to do it. Right. And he's like, no. And then it wasn't until he realized, oh, that could have been my not granddaughter, but like
there's an F plot through this season of Katara's necklace being from her mother, but it's actually from her grandmother.
And then you find out it was him who gave her grandmother
a proposal necklace.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, now maybe women should bend. Okay, everyone forgot about it. Yeah. Like, wouldn't everyone else who was against it?
Yeah.
Also, still be mad about it. Like, okay, just because you changed your mind doesn't mean we will. But I get like once again they could have done something with it in a better way. I think I don't know how. I just feel like they could have been like, maybe there was a moment where she has to fight and she saves him or something to be like, oh.
Also, I think if like, let's say it was like, okay, it's just this teacher that refuses to teach women, but since he's so damn good at it that we can't just tell him to do the things we want. You know, instead of being like, no, we just don't do this up here.
I thought maybe that line of like women can't waterbend or he can't teach it should have extended to the very end of the next 2 episodes, and maybe like you put an example where she saves the day because she knows how to waterbend, and like he has to just admit that like not teaching you is like...
It's only really until she kicks Aang's ass that he actually believes that she's good. He just accepts it to do it when...
Yeah, I think there need to be a moment where, like, she saves the day, straight up, to get, like, that... Yeah. If I don't teach you...
Wouldn't you also think that's a bit cliche?
I guess, but...
This is a very cliche type of story, so what can you expect?
Yeah, I'm trying to, like, find a way where they could have saved it, maybe, if they're going to... Or just don't put that in at all. But once again, maybe this is more of a filler episode, because they wanted to do a double episode of a battle. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I said, I feel like that's where I would have gone with it. Like, I guess you said it's a cliche, but at the same time, it's still somewhat empowering than this, because this, at the end, didn't feel like... I'm not a girl, so I don't know, but it just felt like they missed the mark, like, once again, with, like, were they trying to do a message or no? Like, I'm confused of what you were trying to do with this, with the writing. I like the story arc, the overall story arc, but there's moments in this whole first season where I'm like, if there's gonna be like a lesson at the end of the episode, like most cartoons have, whether it be something goofy or actually meaningful, at least commit to it, or at least make it seem like you, I don't know,
believe it.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. It was weird.
Yeah. Well, this episode also introduced us to the rulers of this North Pole city here. We got our leader. I don't know if they call him a king or not, but they definitely refer to his daughter as a princess, Princess Yue, which Sokka like very much. Sokka very like.
She hot?
Ice cold. Come on.
Ice cold. She icy?
Icy. Do they show waterbenders bending ice in this episode or not?
Yeah, because I think when... Yeah.
Because I don't remember if
Which
that was
at this
like
point, I was going to say,
or not.
after we review these last two, I'll just ask you what one you'd want to bend. And like up until this point, like ability to make it to ice, I'm like, cool, finally. Like I'm like, can you at least change the temperature? Then I'm like, can you make boiling water then? And just like burn? Like would that be more of a fire thing? I don't know. But yeah, let's move ahead.
There is one type of thing that is bended by one nation in this show, but then officially assigned to another nation in the sequel series. But it's so briefly brought up here that they can write it away. I won't say what that is, but there's like an in-between between two different elements, and they decide, you know what, we're going to swap this over and give this to the other guys. But our final two episodes are a two-parter called The Siege of the North, Part 1 and Part 2. Basically, the Fire Nation is going to go on a full-on assault and take over the Water Tribe,
and capture Aang. That's the goal.
Yeah, which I guess would technically be that they then own everything, but I feel like they're still fighting a lot in the Earth Kingdom. They don't really show the map too much, but the Earth Kingdom is gigantic compared to the other three. Like, it is bigger than all three of the other land masses combined. Most of the world is Earth Kingdom. So there is a lot of Earth Kingdom that they're still fighting over and fighting. So, because they show the map at the beginning of every single episode briefly, so it's not like it's a spoiler to see what it looks like. But yeah, basically, we have all the elements in play. We got Zuko on his own accord, wearing a very Ninja Gaiden outfit. Definitely looks like the guy from Ninja Gaiden at one point. We got them fighting fire people. We got the fire. This is like the conclusion to that fire general's story. Because he doesn't die, but he gets, like, I think sucked in the spirit world. But there's just a whole lot going on. I don't know really why. Commander Zhao, that's his name. A lot of places to hop around with in the story, but basically Princess Yue and Sokka are getting it on, but she's actually betrothed to this other guy, but the other guy is a big dumbass, and he's full of himself, and the fighting between Zuko and Aang happens at a point in the North Pole where there's actually green, and there's a pond, and there's a yin and yang fish swimming in unison. One is the spirit of the moon, the other is the spirit of the ocean.
I thought that was cool. I like the
yin.
Like, I wasn't sure if they were going to bring that in, like that there's for every positive thing there's a negative kind of karma.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I never thought about the idea of like putting on a fish. I'm like, that. Why haven't I thought of that? It's dope. And especially koi fish. You know what I mean?
This show is definitely like how to do a better way of telling what the Jedi are. This entire show, in a sense, than what Star Wars ended up being with Rise of Skywalker. Yeah, the moonfish dies. Yue becomes the moon. I'm just skipping ahead here.
I want to say that the blood moon was pretty dope.
Yes, that's right. Because they take away the moon, and
even though they just put a red,
like
just put a red filter over everything. Just when it first appeared, I'm like, that's my anime shit right there. That's my anime shit right there. I know this show is an anime, but like,
and it does like a screen wipe over when it turns everything to red.
And there was even a moment when everything's black and white, except for when they were using their elemental powers. I'm like, dope.
Yeah. Aang goes into the spirit world, so he's in the spirit world, but his body is taken by Zuko. There's the face stealer.
Dude, the face stealer is my favorite monster.
Scary.
I love it. I'm like, that's some nightmare fuel that I needed in this show.
Yep.
Give me more of the face stealer.
And yeah, stuff goes on. They win at the end.
Yeah, I mean, Aang turns into a kaiju.
Yep.
And just fucks shit up. Like, just makes everyone their bitch. Like, he's everyone his bitch.
And that kaiju ends up taking Commander Zhao too, essentially.
To
because it is both him, but it's also not him.
Yeah, like it's definitely a combined.
Yeah,
it's like a Jaeger.
It almost feels like he's taking a Jaeger.
Jaeger.
It almost feels like he's borrowing the power of another spirit, and it's kind of inhibiting him.
And was that Yin that he was controlling, or was it Yang? Which fish was he?
The moon's the other fish, so the ocean spirit.
Man, imagine if what the moon spirit would look like. Does he come from the moon?
If you play The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask, you know.
Okay.
Just put a giant face on the moon, make it angry, make it fall and crash into the planet. But yeah, the Water Nation of the North Pole fends off the Fire Nation, and they retreat. Commander Zhao is Gonzo. Zuko and Iroh are basically on a raft, and they depart. Oh, because the pirates came back and backstabbed Zuko. They tried to kill him.
Yeah.
And this is, I think, where Zuko learns he needs to, like, before he gave up searching the Avatar for his crew's sake, now he's doing it for his own sake. He can't fight to the last ounce of strength. I mean, considering the fact that how often they bump into each other, I'm sure he's like, I'll just see him next Tuesday. But
yeah, I'd be like, I must be having to keep running into you. I'm like, I must be on a TV show or something. Cause
yeah. Next season's so good. But yeah, and I forget, how does it end? How did this season end for Aang's sake?
I could have sworn there was like,
you just watched this.
I could have sworn there was like they like look in the sunset or something.
Yeah, it's one of those kinds of things. So
it wasn't anything like, I don't know if they went somewhere. I think they left. I could be wrong though.
Anyway, it ends on like, our next stop is the Earth Kingdom stuff, because he knows that he's now a master of water to a degree. Although we learn at the very end, it's briefly brought up that Katara has already eclipsed Aang again back into waterbending. So she's now
this
the
whole
one
time y'all went to the North Pole, risked everyone's lives, and she's like just picks it up like that.
Yeah, there are reasons why, and you'll see in the next season. I mean, just on a basic fundamental level, he's going to need someone to practice with. So they want to make sure that person isn't being taught by him. So that's why, I'm sure.
I have some random notes that I didn't read off that we kind of just were. There's one episode, a guy blows a horn that 100% is the same horn sound effect that's used in Survivor. Right before the yeah.
It might be
I swewer to God, it was the same horn.
They could take.
Or at least they use the same horn or something. But I heard it because one guy does the horn to like call in someone, and I laughed out loud. I'm like, Survivor, yo! We were talking about Survivor the other day. Aang got friend zoned hard. In that one episode when he made the necklace, and I'm like, I felt that. But then they did a good back to the message thing. They did a good thing where like that one girl who liked him was up front.
Got friend zone back.
Got friend zone back, but they did it in a way where I'm like, that's a good way to do it, though. To like tell people, because there's a lot of people who might not share their feelings with others and don't know how to do that, and then because they're always afraid of being embarrassed. But I feel like Aang could have been like anyone in high school that you had a crush on that you were afraid of, and could have been like, ew, you're gross, dude. No, instead he was like, oh, sorry, I don't like you like that. And I'm like, I wish every relationship that or person that you may have asked out on a date or whatever was like that. You know what I mean? Or maybe you never asked at all. But I just thought that was an interesting concept that I'm like, once again, with the whole like, are they trying to teach us things here? I don't understand. I'm like, if you're trying to teach kids to be like, hey, if you like someone and you ask them out, it's okay, but don't be weird. But also, if someone asks you out and you don't like them, don't be weird.
Yeah.
I'm like, cool, I guess. I think that's it. Everything else we touched upon. I wrote Blood Moon is cool. Face Stealer is dope AF. Yin and Yang Fish were dope. I just wrote, this is dope.
I did want to point out how, and you can even see this on the IMDb page, this show did have a weird scheduling thing where, like, it wasn't now next week, now next week, now next week. They jump around a lot.
I was going to say, in November, they skipped, like, 2 weeks.
They start at the beginning of the year and end at the end of the year.
They must have had, like, well, they might pull viewers back in, too. They could do reruns so people can catch up. Because it's not like they show it once, you know what I mean? They're like, sorry, you missed it. Here's the new episode. Sure. Like, it isn't like, you know...
This is definitely a problem, though, that, you know, a network for kids that is used to having just all rerun type things that don't need to be placed in any order, having trouble, like, finding a rhythm on how to place this.
Well, so probably they probably do one, same thing. Like you said right here, in June, all of a sudden there's a huge gap. Because I think that would have been the halfway point, so they probably like, okay, we'll take a gap, we'll do a bunch of reruns of the first 10 episodes for people to catch up or whatever, or find it. Because, you know, some people might have missed. They're like, oh, I'll wait till they start doing reruns or something like that, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And then they can drop it the second half in October, which is what looks like what they did. Because this isn't like Game of Thrones or something where, like, you know, every Sunday everyone's watching. Like, this is probably a Thursday night at 8 or 4 o'clock. Yeah.
So what did you think of the season overall?
If I had to give it a ranking,
and well, 1 out of 1, and what is your interest level now?
I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10.
Nice.
I will say the second half I liked a lot more. Like I think they fixed some issues that they had with, like you said, the comedy is not like there's moments of jokes, but it wasn't like the first couple episodes were like I feel like they were trying to make it funny too often.
Yeah. How many I gotta go potty jokes can we fit into the second episode?
Yeah.
There's like 7.
I mean, I like monsters and stuff, so I feel like there was more monsters in the second half.
But you can kind of see the kernel of why people really like this show and revere this show, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's battles. That's cool. Battles are always cool.
Yeah.
I feel like the characters were more solidified. That's why I feel like those first couple episodes were kind of boring because they're just like, this character's like this character's like that, and like they finally
this guy's hungry.
Yeah, and they finally kind of solidify what everyone's like abilities are or characteristics are, what they're trying to prove.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's gotten... My interest level is still, I would say... Not still. I would say it's... Like, I'm not, like, excited for Season 2, but I'll be like, yeah, I'm interested.
I will say this is the weakest season of the 3, for all the reasons that we've already mentioned. I think you established them all pretty well when you're talking. Season 2 really kicks it up and does a lot of really cool things. So I'm excited to meet back with you next time to talk about Season 2, which is called Book of Earth. Any last thoughts?
My last question is what element you picking for your... you can't be Avatar, but you can pick an element to bend. Which one you bending? And give me a reason why.
Fire would be the coolest. Earth seems to be the most practical. But in this day and age, I'm not standing on the stone all that much. Or, like cliffside stuff.
I would imagine, though, that like if you're your apartment or whatever, like there's still dirt outside that you can like lift your apartment up. Like it isn't like you can't move the building itself, but you can move the earth underneath it unless there's like a foundation.
Yeah. I'd pick fire just because it'd be dope. I would pick up smoking just so that I can like kind of snap my finger and light a flame.
Yeah, do they get lung cancer?
That is a really good question. Also that last episode established that just like how they'll get more powerful with the comet, the heat from the sun powers the Fire Nation,
and the moon powers.
So at the night that they're not really all as powerful as they are in the day, and vice versa with the water people.
I was gonna say I was gonna pick fire too, but my second would have been air. I don't know. I keep going. Like I have a lot of seconds. I'm like air or water. Earth, I'm just not interested in because I just think that's boring. I guess like I don't need to.
It is funny.
I guess you are more practical though. Like I feel like you are probably honestly like to God, you're probably more powerful though. Because like if you're fighting someone, be like, I'll just put you in a hole
and then cover it,
and you're dead. Like,
yeah.
Or I'll make an earthquake happen, and you're dead.
Without spoiling anything, waterbending goes from seeing the most useless in this series to being just obviously waterbenders should rule the world in the second series.
Well, there's moments where I'm like, okay, that's cool. Now I want to be a waterbender, but I'm like at the same time, like if there's no water around me, I'm fucked.
Yeah,
and I know she has the like water in her
satchel,
and I'm like, I guess that's convenient.
Water skin,
but fire just seems so much like. It might not be like you said the most practical, but the fact that I can just summon heat out of anywhere, like if it's cold outside, boom, fire. I can heat myself up. Boom, I can cook myself something. I can microwave that popcorn because I don't have a microwave still.
No, it's not going to work like microwaves though, unless you can actually bend microwaves, which would be kind of dope.
I know. I would pick fire too. If not, I think air because I think it'd be cool to fly, and I guess I could make it windy up in here. But
yeah, I mean, you can cool yourself down if you're an airbender. If it's too hot outside,
gives a whole new reason. Gives a whole new way of giving a blowjob.
But you might have to be bald if you're an airbender.
Air jobs.
Yeah. So that's our thoughts on Avatar: The Last Airbender, Book of Water, Season 1. Or Season 1, Book of Water, right? Yeah.
Book of Vasa.
The next show we're going to talk about is Season 2, Book of Earth. So, yeah, eventually whenever we record that, this is when you'll hear about it. So, maybe get to listening if you want to watch along with us or not. Or if you find this extremely boring, then you've already left. So,
do you want to talk about what we've been watching? Because we didn't do it last week.
Yeah. So why don't you start first?
All right. What do we talk about?
Because I feel like I've talked way more this episode than you have.
I've watched. I already talked about Kidding.
Yep.
I started. I thought Dave was done with. Dave's like a weekly thing, so I've been watching that, and that's good. Still, but I started watching Wu-Tang, an American Saga, I think is the full title.
Really?
And the only reason I totally forgot about the show that it came out because it came out last year at some point, I think in the summer. Yeah. And the only reason we kind of got pulled in was.
Because it's on Hulu, right?
Yeah, and Hulu. It was after we were watching Dave, and I thought there was an episode next. And I said next episode, and I didn't even look at what it was, and all of a sudden it starts with some real street shit, and I'm like, "Where? This isn't Dave, yo!" Like it starts with It opens with a guy with a Tech 9,
this is old dirty bastard.
Yeah, I'm like, it starts with a Tech 9, a guy with a Tech 9 shooting a guy's house or whatever, and I'm like, "This is when does Dave come in?" I'm like, "This is this is real shit right here."
Where is Dave?
And then it ends with right when once I found out it was Wu-Tang was when the guy starts rapping. And I'm like, okay, maybe Dave knows him. This is a flashback or something. And then it comes up. It says
I don't
Wu-Tang.
understand where Dave fits into all of this.
Lil Dicky that's the show's called Dave, but it's about Little Dickies.
No, I'm pretending I'm you in that moment. We're like, where does Dave come in?
Where's Dave come in? But then it says Wu-Tang, and then it has this awesome fucking beat, and I'm like, oh shit. And then we stopped it because we're like, okay, this isn't Dave, but I'm like, I do want to watch this shit though. So I have 2 episodes left, I think.
Wow.
So we've been watching it, and it's less about like definitely is like Wu-Tang and like where they come from, but it's more about just like what their lives are like and the hustle they had to do to make ends meet, and how there's so many moments where like it could have been like it was already bad, but there's moments where it could have been worse, or like there was moments of like they shouldn't have survived that. They have people who die that they know and like how they're dealing with that. But it talks a lot about, you know, police brutality, black on black violence, gang violence, that kind of stuff. But it also talks about a lot of 90s rap and where it kind of was, the game was at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that's really cool.
Yeah. Wu-Tang is for the children, and children need to be taught.
That show is not for children. Do not show this show to your children. There's a lot of profanity, violence, like I said, a lot of real shit. But it is good, really good. And then for some reason
I'd heard about it.
For some reason, I didn't know that Joey Badass is in it as one of them.
Really?
And like I like his one album, but I never actually looked at a picture of Joey Badass, and I'm like, oh shit, it is Joey Badass. I was looking at the cast, I'm like, who's what? And like, 'cause I was looking at.
Imagine doing that though. Like you get to be essentially one of your idols.
Oh yeah,
in like in a documentary type of thing. So
yeah, for sure.
That's got to be real cool for him.
Yeah. I didn't know he was he was acting. But I still think it's dope though. But
yeah.
No, I just was kind of just branching off from Dave to that, and I'm like, oh, this is cool, really interesting. And I guess it's like not everything.
Dave was the gateway drug to Wu-Tang.
Yes, I didn't know like it was so. Like parts of it are like they said it's not historic. Like they said not every part is legit, like what happened, but it's close to what.
Some of it's dramatized. Yeah, I'm sure.
And whatnot, but because I think RZA is he like is producing it, so yeah, really cool. I'm trying to think of anything else. I'm trying to think of anything else we're watching on the side.
Did you play any more Nier since last week?
No, I've.
Or are you kind of giving it a break?
I just started Devil May Cry. I played like 20 minutes of it. The
DMC Devil May Cry, the Ninja Theory one.
Yes, I played the first 20 minutes of it. After I finished
Avatar.
I
saw because you got a trophy.
Yeah. Because it's like, you know what? I've had it sitting here for a year now. I'm like, let me just try it. I decided, like, I think I've talked, I don't know if I said it on the episode, but I've said that, like, I need to put a game in and then play it.
Just give it a shot.
Give it a shot, and if I'm not feeling it, it's okay to step away and not be.
Yep.
So I played Medieval,
and
I got to a point where I'm like, am I really having as much fun with this? I'm like, maybe I'll come back towards Halloween time to get more in the mood for it. There's moments in it was just too PS2 feeling for me where I'm like, there's so much better.
It's fun you keep saying PS2 because that
it's
was
a PS1 game. Yeah, I think they fixed some things.
But you have more nostalgia for PS2 era.
Yeah,
the PlayStation.
It just felt like that kind of game, and I'm like, you know what? Like, there's so many better versions of this type of game that if I want to play this type of game, I can just do it.
Yeah.
But I'm like, let me do Devil May Cry because I was first gonna do. What's the other one? Another game I bought that I haven't tried yet. I didn't try Division.
Burnout?
No, I had Burnout. I just thought like Devil May Cry would have been a good jump from after Nier, just because it's a action
similar type of game. Yeah.
And like immediately I'm like, this is fun. Only thing is it's so the first 20 minutes I'm just kind of rolling my eyes at like just it has that like I'm such a man. Like I'm a badass man, I get ladies.
Is it in the beginning of the game where they make a joke about how people are going to be upset that he doesn't look like Dante with the white hair?
Oh yeah, I mean
where like a mop is next to him or something like that, and he laughs or something like that. I forget.
No,
I never played. I just remember seeing.
I mean, in the beginning, I had like angels stripping and stuff, like dumb shit. And there's one moment like he brings two of them home to his RV, and it does like this. It has some band playing, some like metalcore band playing in the background, and like there's an ass slap, and they actually did an ass slap sound effect, and I'm like, really? Like Ninja Theory? Come on, dog. Like
they're owned by Microsoft, so the blood is on their hands now.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm like, because when I think of Devil May Cry, granted,
it was very like it's mixed, really received.
I was gonna say it's like it felt too edgy for me. Maybe I'm like, it just felt like I should be on a motorcycle with like 3 hot babes, kind of like that kind of person. Like that's the meaning of life, is pussy and like being cool. Like that's so far that's what the game's telling me, is like if I'm not doing these 2 things, I'm not cool.
Yeah, I don't know if he grows as a person or not. I'm not sure. I never played it.
But I'm not playing it for that reason. But from my Devil May Cry that I know is the very first one that I played and watched people play. I watched my dad play it, my cousin play it. I love that game a lot. It's one of my favorite games for sure. Like he was badass in like a gothic like demon way. Like that's cool. Like this, I feel like they're trying to do too much. But granted, I've only played 20 minutes, so maybe it changes. I'll let you know.
Yeah,
that's it.
Well, I've been playing a whole heaping heckload of Final Fantasy VII Remake. I beat it at 48 hours. I know a lot of people are beating it at 35. They must be skipping like everything, which is like there are only so many side things to do, but like they pretty much tell you, hey, if you don't do these here, you're not going to get them at all, so you might as well do them. So I did everything as it happened, although I missed one treasure chest and I was kicking myself for it. But I've been playing a whole lot of that, and I was at work the other day, and I have one coworker that is a huge Final Fantasy fan, so we were talking about the game, and he hadn't beaten it yet, so I didn't want to spoil anything. But I'm like, where are you at? Like, oh, it's cool, this and that, whatever. Another coworker comes by, and I'm like, yeah, we're talking about Final Fantasy VII Remake, and it's really freaking good. Like, I'm shocked at how good it is. Like, you should give it a try, because it would be up his alley. And he goes, when you recommend this, is this a hard R recommend? And my first thought is like, whenever I hear someone say hard R, I think they're about to say the N-word.
True. Yeah. I mean, that's where my brain
even
went.
Thinking the N-word with a hard R makes me feel ashamed. But I'm like, and I had a pause. I'm like, you know what? I don't think that there's any other game this generation, this PS4, Xbox One generation, that I would recommend to anyone as much as I would recommend this game. This is a game that is just so phenomenally built, and it does everything at 110%. This is trying to be itself, and it does it so fucking well. And this is for the first time that I'm like proud to say like I love Square Enix, because they've embarrassed me a lot. Like, I like a lot of the games where, like, they're divisively reviewed, or, like, no one really likes this or that, or, like, Kingdom Hearts is at the point it is, and I fucking love Kingdom Hearts, right? But I just have a whole bunch of stuff here. I'll go through them quick, like a mini review, and then, without spoiling anything, why this game is so fucking exciting to fans, and why it is a game that everyone should be playing. The game is gorgeous. It's just the character models they look better than Red Dead Redemption 2. They're extremely gorgeous, like 100%. That's where like the PlayStation 4 is putting all of its resources into these character models.
They're hot.
Yes. I'm seeing one of these characters. I'm like, oh my God, this woman is gorgeous. I'm having this reaction to a video game. I wouldn't expect that. Some of the textures on like random background elements are struggling. Some of them look like, you know how, like, when a game is loading in textures, it quickly flashes in a low resolution one?
Yeah.
So that you don't see so that there isn't invisible things, and then it loads in the real ones. Some of the textures feel like they're always in that state, but that's actually just the texture. Because all of the resources, everything is going into Cloud's hair, and his eyes, and his eyelashes, and everything. And it's still a beautiful game. And it's not an open world RPG. This is a linear RPG. It's taking these characters from moment to moment. There is no backtracking. There is no, let's go back to this town or whatever. So it doesn't have to spread that quality around. It can focus on what's in the moment and make everything look as good as it possibly can. And this game is the first, it takes the original game's first section, which is maybe 6 to 8 hours, and it expands it into a 40-hour game. And a lot of people are like, there's going to be a lot of filler, there's going to be a lot of this or that. This is a meaty fucking game. It is going from moment to moment. It is changing up gameplay styles. It is making you do things that are all fully fleshed out. There's a shit ton of mini games that are like maybe boring to some people, but they're there and they're done in a way that's like thought out, and there's a lot of polish to them, as simple as some of them are. This game doesn't force you to do any of the side stuff, and it will be more than happy to let you lead you on to the new areas, because there's always something new. There are a ton of bosses in this game, and every single one of them are extremely long and extremely epic. It's the best way I can describe it, is epic. Or like midway through, and this thing just does a quick cutscenes where it jumps on the wall, and now it's doing this thing, and the ceiling's collapsing, and it's all going through all these phases, and like every single one of these bosses is treated with this flourish that's amazing. This is a game that is clearly made by people that know how beloved this video game is from its fans, and it pours so much time to make these moments feel special. Like a good example of this is there are two infamous enemies, which I won't spoil to anyone, but one enemy is memed to hell and back, and they made it a boss. And they gave it so much pomp and circumstance that I'm like, yes, this explains why this type of enemy is here, and it's so cool. Another enemy is infamous for being extremely rare and dropping, if you steal from it, a weapon for one of the characters. They made it a boss, and they gave it so much. These aren't, like, important to the game, but they're important to the fans, and they recognize that, and they made them important. And then my favorite part in the original game involves a choice between taking stairs or taking an elevator, and they recreate that in ways I wouldn't have even imagined. It's like my favorite part of this game. It's so hilarious. They even do something that I would never have expected from Square Enix. They take a very transphobic scene from the original that involves cross-dressing, and they turn it into something that is extremely progressive, and it actually looks like they sought out the opinions of queer folk. It's actually, I'm legit shocked that they pulled it off. It feels something like, wow, this is more than just like a 2020 let's be progressive. This actually looks like they believe this, which is cool, right? That, you know, gender is a construct, etc. Like, there is no gay panic scenes in this game, which is amazing. But all in all, this is definitely a game that these people learned all of the lessons that they were trying to be taught by fans from Final Fantasy 13, from 15, and Kingdom Hearts 3. Every single complaint people had from those games, 13's way too linear, and the minimap is literally just a line. It's boring. This game is linear too, but in ways where it doesn't have to be at times, and it feels like, you know, you're walking through streets because it's a corridor on your minimap, but there's people everywhere, and they're talking, and it's always stuff. Final Fantasy 15 made the combat real time, and it feels extremely passive. This game's combat is so fucking good. It's so tactical. It's real-time combat, but at any moment you press X and it opens up a mini menu and you give out commands and spells and you tell your characters what to do. You're actually able to control all of your characters, not just the one, period. It is a puzzle. Every single boss fight is just this amazing thing. And it learned that, hey, all of the anime bullshit that people like from Kingdom Hearts 3 needs to actually be presented in a good enough way. There's anime bullshit in this video game. There's the convoluted Metal Gear stuff that people love, but it's done late enough in the game that you're already, like, attached to these characters. You're already, like, shown why you should care when shit hits the fan and it gets confusing. So, like, Kingdom Hearts, anyone that hops into any of these games, when crazy shit happens and you're confused, your response is just like, oh, that's weird. Whatever. But whatever. This game, you're actually, like, intrigued, and I want to know why. What's going on? Like, things that would be laughable in other Square Enix games are treated seriously enough by the people playing it because they're already attached to these characters. That's, like, my mini review. Feels a bit like a rant, I know, but I do want to explain why this game is so fucking exciting to fans, and why as soon as a new person finishes playing with it, I want to talk to them immediately. Basically, the original game came out in 1997, and by the mid-2000s, Square Enix realized that this was their most beloved game ever. This was just, everyone loved this game. They realized this is the best thing we've ever made in terms of how much fans love it. So they decided that they would do a compilation of games and stuff around Final Fantasy VII, which is something they don't ever do with Final Fantasy games. So there was a side story on PS2, which was a shooter, and it was bad. A flip phone game in Japan that was not super interesting, but whatever. But most importantly, a PSP prequel game and a sequel to the game in the form of a CG movie. I bring all of this up because the movie shows how Square was willing to walk back a bit on Final Fantasy VII's story. We talked last week in the Nier episode about how we like ambiguous endings and stuff. the 1997 game ends in an ambiguous way. We do know what happens, but it's presented in such a way where we're unsure if this is supposed to be a happy ending or a sad ending. And that's really good, and considering the fact that this is such a beloved game that ends in such a way where, like, you could walk away being like, that I'm actually sad, but I'm not sure if I should be. And even if I am happy, it's still not what I would want. This movie does end up showing that, no, that was a happy ending, but there are some aspects of the threat from that game that still linger on in the movie's plot. So they're really learning, when they're making this movie, how beloved certain things about this game was, and how they're willing to sidestep maybe not necessarily artistic intent, but they're willing to take it in a different approach. Be like, okay, this is extremely beloved. How do we approach this now? How beloved this is, if that makes sense. Like, we need to treat it a little bit differently because this is way more important to people than just a game we made, and then we move on to the next game. Mm-hmm. So all of those things are all well and good, but fans have been wanting a remake of 7 ever since then, and have been teased a few times of a remake, but it was quickly followed up with corrections saying that they're not going to remake it. You flash forward to E3 2015, and we get a simple CG trailer that straight up says Final Fantasy VII Remake. It spells it out completely that, yes, they are making a remake of 7, not a sequel, not a side story. Then discussing the game, which they call a remake project. They say it's going to be multiple games long, and that the first game is going to cover that first 6 to 8 hours of the 1997 game that takes place in the city of Midgar, and it will end right when they leave. So, as a big fan of the game, and as all fans of that game did, the conversation becomes all these questions, like, how many parts will this be? Will there be a second part, or where will the second part end, rather? It does end at the big spoiler moment, which I'm glad you don't know. So when we finally do get there, it might actually be surprising. It's akin to literally like the Darth Vader is Luke Skywalker's father type of moment. Like, everyone kind of just knows it. I knew it before getting into the game, and it wasn't even like my choice to know it. You know what I mean? Which is cool that you don't know that. But like, will the second game end at the big spoiler moment? How long will they take to make the next games? You know, this game came out now in 2020, and it was announced in 2015. That's 5 years. But in 2017, they announced that they had to cut ties with the development studio they contracted to make it and had to start from scratch. So it took 3 years to make this. And since they already have that battle system done, stuff like the character designs, and they have a lot of the voices already casted, they have a general workflow set of how to make those games. This game, like I said, learned lessons from 13, 15, and Kingdom Hearts 3. This game just runs on Unreal Engine 4. None of this proprietary stuff that they spent a year and a half making and then start making the game. This game just runs on Unreal Engine 4. So could Part 2 only take 2 years? But this is also Square Enix, so it is all wishful thinking. Their games take forever. Kingdom Hearts 3 took 6 years, and it does not feel like it took 6 years. This game looks like that it actually did take the 5 years to make. This game actually looks like they spent 2 years just polishing everything. Like, there are no bugs in this game. Everything feels extremely well thought out. But they also delay their games all the time, so who knows? Like, if we don't know how many games are going to be in this project, and we don't know, where they're going to end, like, are we even ever going to see the ending in the time in our lifetime, knowing Square? And then there's the actual lingering question of, like, why are they still referring to this game as Final Fantasy VII Remake if this is, like, episodic in a sense? At what point are they just going to change the title, or at least put like a part 1 in it? And my thinking at the time was that they left it in and just called it Remake because they wanted to make the biggest splash possible to non-hardcore gamers that knew it was a famous game, that this is a remake. And the original was a lot of people's first RPG. And that game is not very beginner friendly. So I can easily see a lot of those people never leaving Midgar anyway. So to them, this is a remake of what they played, right? Mm-hmm. So maybe, the next game, they'll just put part 2 on the next one. Or maybe they'll add a subtitle to it named after an event in the game or something. Maybe it'll name it after the spoiler, just so
Final Fantasy
so it is spoiled.
1.
Yeah. I mean, knowing Square, they like to name their games very specifically, and this game
remake sequel
is named specifically.
It's a remake sequel.
Yeah. playing through the game, it's obvious to me that this game knows it's a remake of one of the most beloved games of all time. No one says it's the best game of all time, and it's not. But this is one of the most famous and beloved games of all time. This was like an event. This is like everyone bought Grand Theft Auto 5. And, in 2013 and the years since, everyone bought Final Fantasy 7. This was just that game. They know it's a remake. They treat it with those gloves. They're willing to make changes. And without getting to any kind of spoilers, the ending is very much aware that, like, we know what you're thinking about this. By the end of it all, this game has fans like me just as excited to know what happens next as it would have for people that have never played the 1997 original. This is a game that fans of Star Wars The Last Jedi will love, and that I know purists of the 1997 game absolutely despise this. This is way more exciting for fans to discuss than simply being like, well, when will Part 2 end? New fans will end up wanting to play the original game once it's all over. And old fans like me will want to discuss the entire game saga when someone's finished. Like, as soon as you're done with this game, Devin, when you finally play it, like, we're just going to talk about the entire series.
Oh my god!
And I will spoil the entire thing for you, and it's not actually going to matter. This is a game that has brought many old fans like me to actually proudly say they love Square Enix. That's the only way I can say how exciting this game is without spoiling anything. Because the pitch of this game, I can boil this game down to like a one sentence pitch, and it is extremely intriguing. But it would spoil it would actually like ruin anything about the ending. And even though you've never played the original, and it wouldn't really matter to you all that much, it does color the way you would play the game differently, thinking certain things when it wouldn't want you to think them. So. But yeah, that's my like mini rant on the game. Like, this is a must-play game, 100%. I am super excited for the sequel. I hope that they announce it soon. And I can tell you right now, they're not going to call it Remake Part 2. They're going to have a different type of kind of name for it to kind of like make it feel special. Like, oh, this is coming back.
7.1.
Yeah. Oh, you laugh, but Kingdom Hearts did like 1.5.
Yeah, I know.
2.5 and 2.8.
It's like a patch note.
Yeah. We're gonna patch Kanye's album again. So yeah, that's what I've been playing.
We should do patches of past episodes. Like, we'll go back a year from now and redo parts
well, I
of
did
it.
had to retitle one of them once, so it's actually really easy to just change the title on one of our episodes without changing anything.
That's
really.
one way, but I mean, like, we should go back to our first episode of the Sonic Movie Show and re-record it and call it Sonic Movie Show Episode 1.2 or whatever. Version 2.
We could probably replace the file with it now that I think
Not
about
even replace it. Like, we just have
But, like,
pretend.
you could do that.
We pretend. Like, we'll listen to it. We'll do, like you said, gloves. And we'll go back and pretend that we haven't seen the Sonic movie.
So you watched a famous anime called Neon Genesis Evangelion.
Yeah.
This game and this team clearly took inspiration from the movies that they made about that
because
series.
And there's movies that's a whole other freaking confusing as fuck. Where are the movies canon? I don't know. You decide.
They clearly looked and said, "Oh, this is a very beloved anime, and they're remaking it in these films, and how they're doing it is very interesting. Let's do that too." That's all I'll say about it.
No, I like that.
This is a must-play game. If you really want to know, I'll pitch it to you off this
Okay.
episode, the one-sentence pitch, because it is fucking awesome. And like I've watched so many reviews that are like actual like video reviews of groups of people discussing the game, and I've also read a lot of reviews. This is a game that has gotten a lot of people that have tried Final Fantasies in the past and it would never click, or especially 7 maybe because they knew it was famous. Or like, again, anime bullshit, like it's hard to connect with some of the characters sometimes. The acting is amazing. The writing is actually really well done. There are a couple moments where I'm like actually laughing. I'm like, there's no way a Japanese person wrote this line. This was an American writer that in the translation localized the line to be like this. And I'm actually cracking up. At the end of it, I mean, I played the original and I know and I love the characters, but the game really makes you love characters. They expand side characters in such a way where it's like, damn, I'm actually really sad now. Stuff like that. So, yeah, that's it for me.
Well, I know you were looking forward to it, so I'm glad it
Yeah.
fulfilled your wettest dreams. So,
Oh, my dreams are so wet. So, any final thoughts for this episode?
no, I think we're good. We did another long one, huh?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we had a lot to talk about, so. And we'll have a lot to talk about next time we discuss Avatar: The Last Airbender, which won't be next season, or next. It will be next season, but it won't be next episode of the Sonic Movie Show. So you got time before you hear another super long
What are we
one.
gonna do for next episode? I don't know, because I think we said last episode that like we might have to start just doing more, almost like evergreen stuff. Where since we don't have much movie news besides AMC is closing,
Yeah.
and everything's delayed, so I feel like that we kind of have to try some other stuff. So we appreciate y'all for still listening, if you are listening. That's it. That's my little
And you can
speech.
listen to us on multiple podcast services such as iTunes, Spotify, Google Play Music, Stitcher. We're not on iHeartRadio. I realized this the other day. We're still not up, so I have to change something on there.
iHeart. What the hell, dude?
Pocket Cast. Oh, they're more than willing to send me emails, though, about all their stupid bullshit. We're on those services. Give us a rating. Give us a review, especially on iTunes, because I think it's the only place you can do it. We're also on YouTube, so go check us out, Sonic Movie Show, on all these places. Leave a comment. But more importantly, tell your friends. No, but more importantly than that, go on a website known as twitter.com. I'm not sure if you've ever heard about it. We're on there at Sonic Movie Show. I'm on there at Ethan Absolutely. Devin's on there at CURSONA YouTube. And let us know how you thought about Avatar: The Last Airbender Season 1. Ask me about Final Fantasy. And if you're looking forward to Season 2.
Send Ethan a tweet of that video that I sent him, I guess, years ago that I don't remember. I'm gonna have to...
Maybe I'll find it and send it to you.
But
it was like a series, because the person also did like a mocking video of the first episode too.
It's probably going to be like in 480p too. It's going to be like...
240, I'm sure.
OG YouTube.
Yeah. Well, until next week, see ya.
Bye-bye.